blockchain, crypto, NFTs, like these are all buzzwords that most people you've probably certainly heard about. They've been thrown around a lot, and kind of like any other buzzword, a lot of people talk about them. A lot of people say they're going to be disruptive. There's a lot of hype, and not a lot of people understand what they are and understand what they mean and what they mean for their business. And so that can lead to someone getting into something when they shouldn't get into it because they feel like they have to, or it can lead to someone ignoring it when they actually shouldn't, because there's just a lot of kind of fogginess around the whole thing. And so we're actually involved in launching one of our first NFT marketplaces for a client right now. And so and we'll kind of dig into this. And I've personally, and we've been in the kind of crypto blockchain world for, going on like probably 10 years now. And now it's something that's become mainstream that can really affect e-commerce for the better, and business for the better. And so, these can be really revolutionary technologies in many ways. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about what these buzzwords actually are, so that you don't discount them and you don't give them overemphasis, just in case you don't understand what they are, in as simple terms as possible, because they do get really technical. And we're going to show some ways that these will positively impact e-commerce business. And so if you lead an e-commerce business, or you own an e-commerce business, or you're an investor, or you're part of a big corporation that owns DTC entities, this is something to consider. It will positively impact e-commerce, and the earlier you can understand it and potentially adopt it, the more you can take advantage of it. Because what you don't want to be is you don't want to be that person that rejected the internet, right, and discounted the power of computers back in the 90s and, stuck to paper and telephones, and then, 10 years, 15 years later, we're having to play catch up. You don't want to be that brand. You don't want to be that person. And so we're going to talk about, how this emerging technology that's actually been around for, 10, 15 years now, how it's actually beginning to influence and can be positively used in the e-commerce space. And so to begin, let's talk about what blockchain is and how it works. And so in very simple terms, right? And so like the crypto geeks might find issue with this, but in very simple terms, the idea of a blockchain is really like a network of people that all have the same instruction sheet, right? And when something is updated on that sheet, when something changes, all those people get together and they reconcile it. They do that in a way that we make sure that change is legitimate. And then when they decide it's legitimate, then they all update all their sheets to match the new set of instructions. And then that becomes the baseline, and they move forward. Now, those instructions can be something like, code for an application, like a web application, a website, an internet application, a mobile app, whatever. Could be that. It can be a ledger for financial transactions. And so this is, where cryptocurrency comes in and those kind of things. They use blockchain as that ledger. But the key here is that there's a master sheet. Okay, there's something that isn't managed by any central organization. It's managed by a committee, by the community of people that hold it, and that's what makes it powerful. It can't be manipulated. It's very transparent and it's honest. That's why it's known as decentralized, because it's not owned by any one entity. It's distributed among the people, and it's honest, and it can't be manipulated. And so understanding it that way, that honesty is at the core of blockchain technology, and the fact that it's distributed among millions of people means that it's very stable as well, because it's well diversified. And so if one node or one server goes down, then it's not gonna go away. It's distributed really well. And so those are some of the powers of it. And so when we talk about, when you hear cryptocurrencies, blockchain is at the core of cryptocurrencies, which are simply financial ledgers that are distributed. When you hear about NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, that's what that stands for. Blockchain is at the core of that because it's essentially a record of ownership that's distributed among people, among all the different groups. And there are also decentralized applications, like web applications, and other uses for it. And the uses keep growing. In fact, I would say we've only scratched the surface of the uses right now. And a lot of the uses that you might hear about may be kind of hokey sort of uses, but that's pretty typical in disruptive technologies like this, where we know it's powerful, but we're not sure exactly where the practical uses all are yet. And the internet went through a very similar kind of thing. But the key is that there's no manipulation and there's no cheating, and that's the core of blockchain. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today as it pertains to e-commerce and how it helps there. In many ways, it's the product of a cynical world and a world that has seen a lot of dishonesty, especially lately, and a lot of manipulation. And this is a combat towards that. And so I don't think any of us like that fact, but that is part of why this has come about, and it's good because it's part of the power of it. And so what does this mean for you? How do you use blockchain in your e-commerce? How do you think about it? What are the benefits? What are the drawbacks? And so we'll talk about 4 ways that blockchain can influence your e-commerce business in the coming years. So that you don't just let it pass you by, and that you understand it and understand when to take advantage of it. And so the first way is transparency. So anywhere that there is potential manipulation or potential distrust in a system, blockchain can help. And so if we think about e-commerce, we can think about things like reviews, right? Reviews platforms can be manipulated, and customers are starting to see that. We all know that when we get on Amazon, we see a product that has 25,000 4.9 star reviews, and then you go on there and you decide to sort by most recent. Every single most recent review for many products is a negative review. So how is it possible that it has so many reviews? Well, there is review manipulation that happens, and blockchain can help there. We can talk about things like limited supply. So if we have a limited supply of something and there's urgency involved in that, the customer often doesn't believe that. Let's just be honest. When we say there's only a couple products left and there's urgency around doing it, I think a lot of times the customer may not believe that. Blockchain can help bring that transparency to light at scale and increase that trust. And when we can build that trust with customers, especially in e-commerce brands, we can increase our conversion rate, and that's kind of our goal. It can also help in shipping. Now, there's not trust in shipping, but shipping is something that is hard to bring the status of to the customer, right? And the customer likes to know the status of shipping, so that's improved a lot, right? We can see when something shipped and when it's going to arrive and those kind of things. But with blockchain technology, it might make it a lot easier for a customer to see all the micro steps in shipping and exactly when to expect their product. And we've talked about how shipping is often seen as the necessary evil, and how we can use shipping times to actually improve our customer conversion rate in other articles, which we will link to. But blockchain can help bring that even more to light and make it even more transparent. Okay, the second thing is something called through something called smart contracts and distributed ledgers. These are sort of all like these kind of crypto terms. But these terms are often thrown around, but it's essentially it's a unified set of instructions that always holds the truth, and it lends itself to being used to show ownership of something. And so this is often referred to as an NFT, a non-fungible token. But how does this impact e-commerce? Well, the benefit of this is that it allows for many people to own fractions of things, right? It's kind of like buying stocks in the stock market. Very, very similarly, that idea can be applied now to using blockchain technology. It could be applied to owning fractional pieces of art or pieces of real estate or other things where there might be one of those things, or it might be a really expensive thing, and you might be able to sell fractions much more easily. And so now this kind of brings this exciting potential idea of, can I use e-commerce to sell parts of my art collection, or can I use e-commerce to be a railroad to sell part of a piece of real estate I own, or for me to own part of a piece of real estate. So as owners of e-commerce and seeing how the technology goes, this idea of fractional ownership is really interesting. And then it also creates opportunities for digital products. And so we often hear about, these ideas of, the most popular NFTs these days, if you keep up with that kind of stuff, or graphics and of different things and images that people create and that are supposedly in limited supply. But you can apply this to digital products, right? So if you sell digital products and you do want to create limited supplies of things, maybe it's a limited run of a book, but you're not printing a physical book, maybe it's a digital book, you can do that through selling NFTs on e-commerce. And there's sort of a whole bunch of other areas there as well. If you take a look at membership, the idea of using an NFT to show membership in something, and in the blockchain world, a consumer has a wallet that captures all their different things. And so what if membership to your site or membership to your program was shown through someone just logging in with their wallet rather than having to log in with a password and all that kind of stuff? And you can see a very, very clear way to sell that membership, and maybe you want limited supply of that membership, maybe you want to manage it that way. Blockchain helps you do that there. And so using blockchain as ownership is the second potential way that it can impact e-commerce. The third is through privacy, security, and logins, right? Just this idea that one of the powers of blockchain is that it's very anonymous from the user perspective, and it provides a level of security. And so where right now, when you check out on an e-commerce store, you're entering all your data, customers entering all their data, their credit card data, then you or the platform are having to store that data. What blockchain actually allows you to do is potentially a customer can store their credit card data and all their personal data and even their information inside their wallet, and they can log in to your site using their wallet, and your site will be able to securely access certain parts of that data and use it to check out and not have to hold that data. So the customer's safe, there's privacy, and there's more trust built. And there's also less liability potentially on you, the merchant, or the brand, or even the platform like Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento or something like that. So that's the third way, privacy and security. Now the fourth is through payments. And now this is where, if you've heard of crypto and e-commerce, typically it goes in the direction of the token, no pun intended, example of blockchain and e-commerce is being able, some crypto humor, being able to check out using cryptocurrencies. And so that's usually the thing most people talk about, and it is a thing. So that's why we put it as number 4. But this is currently in use. You can, depending on what e-commerce platform you're on, you can accept cryptocurrency as payment. But the truth is cryptocurrencies aren't necessarily used that way, and they may never be used that way in mass. Who knows? And so this is currently in use, and it's certainly the most basic use of cryptocurrency and blockchain in e-commerce. But in my opinion, it's actually the least disruptive when you're looking at how the technology advances e-commerce as a whole. And so now that we've seen, maybe a little bit about what it is and 4 ways that we might be able to use it in our business, let's just really quickly look at like what are some steps that you can take as an owner or a leader or an investor in an e-commerce brand to start to dip your toe into the water and be ahead of this curve, not behind it. Now, And also how do we get out of the fad mindset and into what is a practical use here? So number one, educate yourself about it. Now, it can be hard to understand, and it's certainly a change depending on how long you've been around certain technologies that are here and how you do certain things, right? So educating yourself is number one. Number two is being aware of progress in the technology and how it's actually starting to be used in your industry and in your business so that you can take advantage of it. And now also, number three, for certain products and brands, you might be able to begin using this right now in your business, right? Maybe this opens up a new area of business for you. We talk to a lot of brands who are trying to figure out how they take their traditional company and add e-commerce as a channel to that company. And they might be a B2B brand, they might be a services organization. We've talked about how to do that in the past. For certain types of brands, maybe the idea of selling NFTs or fractional ownership of something that you have physically or digitally might actually open up a whole new business area for you. And so thinking of ways to use it for your business is that kind of third piece. But let's just remember in closing that blockchain goes way beyond accepting Bitcoin as a payment or buying Dogecoin and all the sort of different fads that are associated with it. Don't get caught up in the fads, but really start to understand how this impacts e-commerce, because it does, and it has a massive potential in the e-commerce world. And so look, if you want to explore how the blockchain or how cryptocurrency or how NFTs or any of those other buzzwords, how they can benefit your business, please reach out to us and we'd love to help. Thanks.